Way over there. Welcome back to the first, last podcast from the first to last, the Nerdum, where we go back to the source, the films that inspired, influenced, or laid the groundwork for bigger and more widely known movies that followed. This month, we're continuing our series called The Originals a Month, where we spotlight the strange, bold, and often overlooked films that came first, or at least got there before the mainstream caught on. And this week, we're diving into one of the wildest genre mashups of the 2000s with the South Korean cult classic "Save the Green Planet!" Exclamation point. Directed by Jang Joon-hwan. Save the Green Planet is nearly impossible to pin down. It's part sci-fi conspiracy theory, part black comedy, part psychological horror, and part emotional tragedy. Sometimes all within the same scene. The story follows a deeply paranoid man convinced that the alien invaders are secretly infiltrating Earth, leading him to kidnap a powerful businessman he believes may hold the fate of the planet in his hands. What unfolds is chaotic, unpredictable, disturbing, and surprisingly emotional. And now, over 20 years later, the film is getting even more attention thanks to Bugonia, the remake from Yorgos Lanthimos, with Lanthimos bringing his own offbeat style to the material. It makes the perfect time to revisit the original and ask what made it such a cult phenomenon in the first place. We'll be talking about the film's influence, its bizarre balancing act between comedy, darkness, and whether this original deserves to stand alongside the movie it inspired, and the remake now bringing it to wider audiences. So prepare for aliens, paranoia, emotional whiplash, and absolute cinematic chaos. This is First Last Podcast, and the Originals Month continues with Save the Green Planet. So, and I'm Tom, and I'm here with Mike, and we're here doing it again.
Yes, sir, we are. Yes, sir, we are. Yeah, I am ML, and this is Tom. Great intro, great intro. We had both had independently seen this movie that this was based on, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I just want to take some time to pay the bills and say thank you to the fans out there who decided to join our little merry crew. We can't thank you enough. You can always find us at firstlastnerdum.com, as well as at firstlastnerdum on YouTube, where you can always find us on home base. That is it. Go check out the thing, and we actually have a plethora of things out there. So we will be coming out with a release schedule. I know Tom has been good about doing our shorts. So look out for some of those and whatnot. But Tom, I think you also have some other social medias here as well.
Yeah, sometimes. I try to promote us where I can on there, but Reddit's and its filters have been the bane of me. So if you do see me on Reddit, I've fought against the tide of being deleted or banned. So if you're coming over from there, hello. But I'm also consistently on X. That's where you'll find me promoting our stuff with X. Both Reddit and X, I'm under First Last Nerdum.
Oh, sorry, I did not. So,
Yep, there's
I too am on X. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, yeah. This is Tom. Sorry. I'm fairly out to lunch today. Sorry, I got distracted by the Reddit thing. I wanted to tell Tom something about Reddit, but anyway, yeah. Also, they're available on X. But anyway, whatnot. We're trying to get better on Reddit. I guess was what I was going to say. I'm trying to get an account going, and I think I do, but we'll see if they'll have me or not. But so. I had mentioned this. I had mentioned this before. We had both seen this in our own time. You have not seen it yet. No.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
That's right. No, that's right. You will see that. Okay. Good. All right. Then we'll save that for later. So yeah, I have. And anyway. So this was really cool to be able to go back and see this. That this is based off. That this originally came through. And I think I have a good guide here, and I'm going to take one for the team, and I'm going to try to Jang Joon-hwan, Jang Joon Han is the director and the writer, and just like your intro said, I didn't quite know where what this is. Sci-fi? Is it comedy? It's got a little bit of comedy there, a little bit of levity, and I think that there's some unique strings to this too that allows it to take itself. It does take itself seriously too. There's nothing shoddy or kind of like winky, kind of thing that I detected. So it keeps the kitschiness down to a minimum because it is serious, and it's just very interesting. Anyway, the point I wanted to make is I don't think that you would have got that if this were if this were an American-made film. I don't think that. I think the American-made one would have gave up the ghost, for either sci-fi, or it would have picked. It would have picked, but
pick the lane.
But this is so unique, and obviously it was made in Korea, with the Korean film industry, which we'll get into. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'll save my comments on Bugonia for later, so they're spoiler free. I might have to do a little bit of tweaking here, but aside from that, so you had found this one anyway, or this was the one that had come up that we had kind of talked about before, and here we are. So what do you think of this?
Yeah, it was one of those movies that at the time, 2003, I would have loved. It came out the same year as Old Boy, and the other big guy that at the time, Old Boy was done by Park Chan-wook, and then the other big guy that's become phenomenal, Bong Joon-ho, came out that same year with Memories of Murder. So those three pivotal South Korean directors there, and I knew about Bon. I knew about Park. For some reason, the Save the Green Planet has slipped through my fingers. It came out on Tartan Extreme DVD, which I was a collector of those titles. So I don't know how I missed this one originally. But that just tells you that there's still like these incredible movies out there that are there to be discovered even now in 2026. Over 20 years later, I found this movie that I absolutely love. But yeah, I was getting I've gotten into collecting 4Ks and Blu-rays, and I noticed the Arrow has had a 4K coming out in the UK. I sent you a link of Orbit's order for it if everybody be interested in getting the 4K. But yeah, I was reading that this was like the basis of the movie Bugonia, and I didn't know that movie was a remake of all things. And I was like, okay, South Korean. This is a weird sci-fi movie. I don't really do blind buys anymore. I try to watch the movie before I buy it. But this one sounded so interesting that I couldn't find it on streaming without paying for it. I saw it on like Tubi, or didn't see it on Tubi, which was surprising, because Tubi has everything. So I went ahead and did a blind buy on this, and I'm glad I did because I absolutely loved the movie. And that's the link for if you're in America. If you're in the UK or Europe, the links, if you go straight to Arrow Film UK, you can get it off of their website. But if you're here in America, this is a British UK edition. You notice the little circle there. That's a good indicator. But it's a 4K, so it'll play on your American machines because it's region free. Although there is a Blu-ray with extras, and that will only play on a region locked or region free player. So yeah, that's a caveat. Great box for it with a great box art on it. But yeah, so I had never heard of this movie, and so yeah, so it was a revelation watching it for the first time. Absolutely loved it, and since we were kind of thinking about doing sort of a month on movies that maybe bigger remakes were based off of. We wanted to show some love for the originals, where the source material came from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this one is it's, like you said. It just it's so unique and interesting. Anyway, never mind that it was Bugonia was based on it, or that version of it anyway. And it does go for a good solid. Just to kind of lay that kind of bones of the film, 2003. Like you had mentioned, this one, and I also remember that too. This is when I watched this, I was like, this is exactly what you had described. Like just out there films that are little known that you were always on the hunt for back then. You would have absolutely come across this had you.
Yeah, yeah. For some reason, it just slipped through my fingers. Which, it's a sort of a kind of a paradox. Is like, oh man, I would love to have had 20 years to think and watch this movie. But then again, it's amazing that I get to experience it for the first time now. When you think every little gem that you've already discovered all the gems that were in the past, to find this movie, to be able to experience it now is also a treasure as well. But it's one of those, and I guess we're kind of getting ahead of the horse or the cart or whatever here, but basically the movie's about this guy who's he's all in on the alien conspiracies. Yep. He believes this CEO of this company is an alien, head alien, and his mission is to save the green planet Earth, and so he kidnaps this alien, or who he thinks is an alien, and he's going to torture him and, save the planet. And I was reading and watching all the extras, and it's interesting how he came up with the idea of this movie. Jang came up with the movie. He said that he watched the movie Misery, and the crazy lady in it that torments the writer. He said, she didn't get a fair shake. I didn't really get to understand who she was, and he wanted to make a movie where you got to get in the head of that crazy person and maybe see their side of things. Maybe they have a point. And then also he was reading this magazine that was kind of going over all these weird little websites back in the early 2000s, and there's a website that was obsessed with these alien conspiracies, and one of the guys had this conspiracy that Leonardo DiCaprio was an alien set to conquer America, or conquer the planet by wooing all of its women. He's so attractive that his hair, his golden locks were like antennas, and that's how he communicated to his alien brethren. And he found that so funny, and he said he was reading it on the bus, and he just was laughing so hard that it just made sense to combine that with his thoughts on Misery, and that's where the movie came from. So it's these weird divergent ideas kind of mashed together, but they work for some reason, and and that's sort of I guess his kind of the way he thinks, because there's all this yin and yang in this movie. There's, it shouldn't work because it goes off all these strange tangents, and like I said in the intro, like almost all in the same scene, and it shouldn't work, but for some reason it absolutely does. You have black comedy, you have sci-fi, you have a thriller aspect, you have a tragic love story, and then this social political undertones to the whole thing. It should kind of collapse under all of this stuff, but for some reason it's almost like you got all these spinning plates, and he's amazingly got them all spinning and they're all working.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This one, I also wanted to kind of bring in the fact that this film, it's like you think you're getting Men in Black and Misery, but in reality you're getting Old Boy and Parasite. you're kind of getting that, and I also kind of wanted to kind of set the table, like you were saying, like 2003, and this is the research that I did, was one of the greatest years of Korean cinema, and that's not exaggerating it. Like, that was, in one year you had Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder. That was a serial killer, a procedural. And then you had Park Chan-wook's Old Boy, which we're very familiar with. And now you have this one, the one that you've never heard of, and that is Save the Green Planet. And did you see those other ones that I mean, obviously Old Boy, but had you had any history with other South Korean things of that year? Just that come to memory, never mind outside of the broader genre.
No, yeah, I'd seen Old Boy. I didn't see Memories of Murder. The first Bon Joon-ho's movie I saw was The Host, which was 2006. But yeah, I was definitely, after Old Boy, yeah, you definitely had an eye on Korean cinema. And you have to, just to put a little context on it, the reason and why all those great movies started to pour out of Korea is that, it used to be, I think it was state sponsored, or at least it was very heavily controlled by the state of the movie industry in South Korea before those movies came out, and there was sort of they kind of loosened the restrictions, and anyone could make a movie. So there was that sense of energy of anything's possible, and you had these people that were making movies, these producers that had the money to make the movies, but they didn't know how to make movies because they were making movies for the first time. So there was all of the restrictions were gone, and anything went. You could do anything. Basically, if you could convince the people with the money that you had a movie, almost like that same energy of the 1970s America with the filmmakers. Then there's that explosion of all these creatives just doing whatever they could to throw up on the film, and it was just an artist being an artist, doing what they do best. And you had these guys like Ho, and you had Park, and you have Jang here, and both Bon Joon-ho and Jang were actually at the same film academy at the time, and they actually what they would do is their student films, they would all kind of work on each other's. You'd be the director, and then all the other directors or people in the film school academy would take on different roles. So Jang, who did Save the Green Planet, his student film was called 2001 Imagine, which is another movie about a crazy person, a delusional person that thinks he's John Lennon, the recreation, recreation of John Lennon. And Bon Joon-ho was the cinematographer on that short film. So they all kind of knew each other pretty well. And I think on Bon Joon-ho's one, Jang said that he was like the lighting engineer on his, but yeah, it's kind of fascinating that they were all kind of cooking there all together. And at the premiere of this movie, or one of the premieres where they showed it to a bunch of different South Korean directors at the time, I saw a little interview where Park, who directed Old Boy, said that the movie is the best Korean movie. Yeah, he'd just seen it, so he was very enthusiastic, saying how great it was. And another director was, saying that, it kind of felt like the director of Old Boy, this is sort of, sort of on that same kind of vein. He thought he was watching a Park movie, watching this. Although they had a little interview with the Jang saying, but I can see where you could get that, because Park's kind of extreme like he is in certain aspects, and kind of goes the extra length. But he goes, I think we're different in mood, color, and how we kind of approach different scenes. So yeah, there's a lot of lighter spirit to this, even though you're dealing with very dark things. There's like a light buoyancy to it that, if you just look at some stills of it, it almost looks like it could be a movie for children, but it absolutely isn't.
Yeah, and I wanted to cut, because there is, this movie is very, when you get away from the center of it, and the circle expands, it kind of, it kind of can put you on opposite ends, but you're looking at the same center. But to kind of get started, like this guy is he is like kind of down and out. His dad worked in a coal mine, and presumably I think he passed or died or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously that, and then his mom, it was in this coma. She got sickness of some kind, and then here he is, and it's kind of on his shoulders, and then to kind of
He's been through prison. He's gone through factory strikes. He's in the middle of
and some of the things that kind of set the table for that, like Jang Joon-hwan, he belongs to the what they call the 386 generation in Korea, who were born in the 60s, and they had they came of age during protesting military dictatorships in the 80s, and they had battles and fought street battles with riot police, and that kind of sets that table. I won't get into the whole thing, but in the 90s, the Koreans had to take a big loan from the IMF, and they basically said, you're going to restructure your government, or your economy, in order to pay it off quicker or whatever, and they did. And there's a lot of miscontent. But anyway, not unlike, it sounds like kind of a similar things that happened here in America. Not quite to that level, obviously, but like as far as like economic upheaval or, that kind of thing. But anyway, going back to this thing, this is kind of like this story of him and his family. I will say, I thought that they did a pretty, I instantly understood what they were doing. And it's amazing how they introduced the film to you, because and this is not spoiler territory, but the first part of the film, you're seeing kind of the setup of like who's who, what's what, and why is why, and that kind of thing, and it sets the table very well. And you can kind of see like that and I love that it dares you to call the person crazy. It kind of dares you to kind of like. That, but the thing is that the camera keeps rolling, so you keep to see his world and kind of like what's going on, and you get it's slowly revealed over time, it's funny, you probably start with your sympathy up here. And again, this is not spoilers, but like the whole thing revolves around him kidnapping this dude or whatever. So like that's not whatever. But at first you start with your sympathy kind of sort of, up high for this, for all intents and purposes, a CEO asshole, whatever, just a rich, whatever. So you're kind of in his corner a little bit. And then as you kind of get to know our protagonist story, you kind of come over to his side, and then you're kind of like seeing, and then it's just funny how those kind of at different points in the movie, I don't know about you, Tom, but like those kind of levels for me were kind of like here or there, as you got to understand the story and the layout. And the other thing too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a little bit more about Korea. When this came out, how did this do?
It flopped. It flopped hard.
And I wanted to say, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
That first week, abysmal sales, and a lot of it was probably due to advertising. They advertised it, with these bright, flashy images and made it kind of almost look like a kid's movie, and it wasn't. So mothers are coming in and, oh man, no, this isn't this. What are you doing? And so. Yeah, and it was kind of sad because the director said that, he wanted to see it in the theater before it left the theaters, and he went to see it, and he was the only one in the theater. It's like, oh man. But he was, before it was removed from theaters, he did go to it with a bunch of fans and got to enjoy it that way as well. But yeah, it didn't do well at all, and in fact, it kind of kept him from making movies for about a decade. Because it was, I think a lot at the time they called it a cursed movie. So it didn't do well. So that may be kind of, it did get a DVD release, and it did get one in the States as well. But that may have been one of the reasons why I didn't hear about it, was because it just didn't do too well.
Yeah, and this was marketed as like a light sci-fi romp, comedy, and
Yeah.
that's not at all what it was. So audiences went in expecting one thing, and then they got a completely different thing. So it's that tonal whiplash that unless you know about it, you're gonna be like, what the did I just watch?
Yeah, and, yeah, and a lot of movies that do well are pretty easy to digest. You go, oh, you see it, see an image of it, or see a quick maybe scene from it. Oh, well, this movie's that. Oh, I want to see that. But with this one, you see one aspect of the movie. And you think, oh well, I want to see that, but then you go to it, and there's so many different levels to this movie that the rest of it may turn you off. That's the issue with this movie. But the thing that I love about the movie is that it is so many things all at once, and I do love these really weird mashups that throw in all these different genres and emotions and different things that it makes it unique and kind of beautiful and undescribable. And those are the movies that I absolutely love. And one of the weird things that I kept, especially on the second and third rewatch of the movie, is that I got a sense of it's not one to one, but it has the same kind of kinetic energy and craziness and seat of your pants kind of feel of the movie Fight Club, because that movie did so many things all at once. And you could say that it's a movie about these guys fighting, but there's such a big deep emotional undertow of that movie. That when you kind of describe it by the surface levels, you don't even get close to the movie, and that's sort of the same way with this movie. You could say it's a sci-fi, crazy guy kidnapping a person, but you don't get to the whole emotional undercurrent that's there in the movie. That really makes this movie what it is.
I agree. No, I agree completely. Yeah, to me, this is and of course, you have this beautiful, beautiful, song that we're all very familiar with, that will revisit us many times.
Which I serenaded you with at the beginning of this podcast.
But with that tonal, that whiplash between being asked to believe this, and that at the same time, it forces you to hold, and I think that's why it's a little bit harder, because you do see. You see a little bit of innocence and like a little bit of normalcy, I guess. I don't know what you just innocence, and then in the same moment, in the same time, you also see cruelty. So
right.
To me, this film is a lot about putting those two elements together until you get to a certain point to where, and I won't go from there, but to me, that's kind of the part, because they're not shy about what they show. They're very graphic cinematographers over there in Korea. They're not afraid to show things. Oh, where it's funny, because where they choose to cut away is also kind of just interesting as a cultural thing. I thought that was interesting, but particularly with guns, I just thought that was very, very interesting. When they anyway, but I'll kind of throw it back to you and see what you thought about. I don't like I said, the farther you get away from the center, it's harder, because you can easily clamp down on any particular aspect of it, and then by the time you get to the other side of it, it's like, well, that's kind of true, but
Yeah, and to give a little more backstory on this, the writer-director, Jang, he was the movie he was working on originally was a superhero movie, but he knew, at that time, of course, superhero movies weren't superhero movies of today. The huge, multi-part things. He's coming from, say, Batman and Superman, but and from what I understand, the movie that he was working on was called Fart Man, which. Unrelated to Howard Stern's Fart Man, but yeah, so he's working on this, but he goes, okay, well, no one's going to give me the budget to do a superhero movie, because that's going to require lots and lots of movie money. So let me do this little movie here, Save the Green Planet. It's going to take place in this little underground sort of layer for the most part. That should be cheap. And little did he know, as it got further and further into the script and doing the movie, that it would bloom to a huge budget, because you've got all these. It becomes like this big. At some points, 2001: A Space Odyssey kind of level of alien imaginings. So yeah, the budget did bloom a little bit on this one, but yeah, it originally was going to be sort of this kind of a small movie. But yeah, this is a movie that just goes for heights that you every time you think you understand the movie, it turns on a head. It goes in a different direction, and that's one of the things I love about this movie, because it keeps opening up further and further, and just kind of overwhelms you and surprises you in a way that other movies couldn't even approach. and like you said, the protagonist, I'll probably butcher his name.
That's why I said that.
Byung-gu, I think. We'll call him Byung. He's a fascinating character, because at times you're like, oh, this guy's a monster. No, I understand this guy. I love this guy. He's a funny guy. No, he's a sadistic killer.
You can tell, like, I'm kind of invoking a little bit of Sarah Connor and Terminator lore a little bit with John Connor, like Sarah Connor and the relationship that she had with John, and like presumably when he was a little boy, she brought him up to know all the survival, evasion, all this end of the world stuff, tactics, all that stuff, and you. What I got, he has such an expressive face. Like, when he stops and he's looking at the character just full on, just as a normal person, he has such just a normal, innocent, just normal person look about him. Like he kind of like looks, and you kind of see like how he's treated, and how even he has. This movie is remarkably detailed too. They're able to do flashbacks for him, but also like kind of like fantasy, kind of flights of fantasy, like in his from his perspective too, which you get, and I'm sure it would be richer with if I knew the Korean language, but notwithstanding, he is the innocent boy, or this innocent thing, and I think that's why I said that innocence and cruelty is there, and you hear that. You hear that Over the Rainbow song 3 times, I believe. And every time you hear it, what's going on, gets a lot darker. Just to kind of put a pin in it, too. Like, that's when the movie is showing you the soundtrack and it doesn't match up with the visuals, like that dissonance, that like, that's like kind of reminded me of you remember Reservoir Dogs, when Suck in the Middle of You, like that, as that plays on, that's kind of like what I got for this. But like the difference though is like this is just so much more intense as you get to know him. But anyway, you really get to kind of see him as a very visual, and you can kind of see it. And then it also kind of helps that when he does do the things, you can kind of see what he's thinking about as you get to know him, the character, which is very interesting when he has a lot of these interaction. I'll throw it back to you and see.
Yeah, there's that built-in innocence that he had originally within himself as a child, and it's almost like he's trying to get back to that. This world, this humanity has kind of attacked him. There's like this love-hate relationship with the world with him.
I said all that to say, without forget to name my point, was like, he's not a very good soldier. And what I mean by that is like he knows how to do the things, but you can kind of also see that like he is not very good at being a tough guy or being a soldier or whatever you want to call him, but he is very good at just being a normal person. And you're right, he does try to call back to that innocence over and over again. I think that's
the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow, that's sort of like the core of the movie. It's all he's trying to get back to a place where he can't ever get back to, and he's trying to save the world, but also save himself. But it's almost like a lost cause. But
Right.
but you still have to have that hope, you know. Even if it's delusional, and you know he's fighting aliens, you know. There's so many different metaphors that you could place on this movie, and they all are accurate, but they all don't quite fit because there's so many. But yeah, in the director said that you know he specifically chose aliens to have that kind of detached view to the humanity in the world, so that you could look at it and see both the good and the bad of humanity, and you can see the social political effects on the protagonist, and you know the struggles that he's had. So you've got this deep understanding to him, and obviously you wouldn't have done the same things he did, but you understand what his processes and what he did in the. We haven't mentioned the other person that's his co-conspirator, Suni, which is a whole different mixed bag of emotions too. It's his love interest, and she's very complicated too. There's so many levels to her because initially you see her as sort of maybe a simple, maybe mentally deficient woman that he's kind of kind of pulled in under his kind of conspiracy and madness, but she's her own person as well, because at one point she leaves him in this movie, which causes for a really emotional sort of episode there where we revisit Over the Rainbow again. But yeah, she's sort of like you know, if he's kind of driven by madness and hatred for these aliens, she represents the love or the innocence that he embodies as well. You know, it's sort of like he's kind of fighting between, you know, the innocence and the world, you know, the innocence that he once had,
Well,
and then and the evils of the world with the CEO/alien prince.
yeah, and I say that he's not like he in some ways he's become hardened. Like anything inside of the story of like what his mission is. I'll just put that way, for lack of a better term, like what his purpose is and what the mission that he's on for. He's very dedicated to that, and he rigorously when he's in or when he's inside that subject material, he's on top. He is the boss. He has full command of what. But the problem with that is it's so small. It's such a small box for him to step on to get above everybody else. But if he's not on that box, if it's just him being a normal himself, he can be. He's pretty good about not listening to his victim or to his to the Mengshik guy, the Kang Manshik. He's the CEO of the
Right. Yeah.
chemical company. But anyway, he's devious, obviously, but he wears him. He does get to him. And he's got to him a couple different points. Like he's like, that's why I say, like, if it's outside that mission of like that the seriousness of this mission and this is the thing, because
he's trying to save his mother. He's trying to save the planet.
Right.
But he has this self-loathing as well. There's that scene where she leaves him and he's slapping himself. You know, he has a self-loathing as well within himself.
Well, he knows that he is innocent, and he never asked for any of this. The other side of the coin, I think that I get a lot from him, even when he is on the boss on his mission, and he's deep into that. And he's commanding in that sense. Like that's when he takes his assertiveness and goes with it. But even still, with that, he is still he can be dissuaded and co-opted a little bit. But I don't know. I'll go back to my thought anyway. He is just well. I'll throw it back to you, Tom, and because I gotta think about it for a moment.
Germinate on it. The one of the aspects I love is that obviously there's one of two ways you can go with this. Either the CEO, Kang, either he's an alien or he's not. There's only two things. Either Byung is crazy, or he's crazy but knows what he's talking about. And there, I love how the movie kind of balances everything out, because there's times when the CEO does some kind of weird things, or things that kind of keeps the idea that, well, maybe he is an alien, kind of playing around in your mind. And also it plays with Byung as well, because he's experienced, he has these delusions, like these fantasies that play out in his head when he goes to get his drugs. He has this whole idea of this bully drug supplier having a fight with him, and beating him up in the street, and to the cheers of everybody around him. So he has these fantasies that play off in his head, that you go, okay, well, this guy is obviously kind of delusional. So maybe he doesn't know all these things, but you see all of his research. There's a lot of influences in this movie, even though we call it the originals, and this is a highly original movie. It does call back to various movies, and really kind of obvious kind of parallels. There's obviously there's the misery aspect to it. And then there's also, and I'll touch on that a little bit more, but there's also like Seven, the way all of his writings and everything kind of calls back to the movie Seven. There's all sorts of little plays in there. And you said like Men in Black, or there's also there's touches on The Usual Suspects, and we forgot to say that Sony is from the circus, and that kind of calls back to the circus. There's sort of like that Innocence, when he goes to see her at the circus and falls in love with her. That just like another callback to his innocence, his childhood, and everything. But she's an acrobat, and there's a scene where she does these flips with attacking this detective, and it's a blatant copy of Blade Runner, down to her outfit, to the flipping, and there's so many fun little kind of callbacks to various movies. There's a confrontation with this other detective among the bees, and the director said he intentionally made it very Hitchcockian, that scene, and he had like a lot of fun just kind of playing it like Hitchcock would have. And there's a lot of, you wouldn't think all of these little influences work, but they do.
And that scene naturally works anyway, because that's like a natural tension, and I won't go into why, but there is high tension in that. And you helped me get back to what I was trying to get to before, which was like when he's doing these acts, or when he's doing the mission, like as he sees it, he also kind of has this small part of him that kind of comes out occasionally, which is like, why me? I don't know if you caught that at all a little bit, but like that's kind of like this. He is committed to the cause, but he doesn't really want to do it. Like that's that whole, and I think that's essentially, I think that's just a rough sketch of his madness. This is kind of like where he's at, where he vacillates. He's already in down the thing, and then you kind of get to this point, and you chalk it up to madness. You just kind of chalk it up to like that. But we'll see where that goes. But I'll just say this. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the detective too, because the detective is, and you kind of get to know him a little bit beforehand, as they kind of build the procedural up from that point. And boy, do they build it up. Boy, they spend some time giving you, and I think what I didn't read it as this, but I think that part was he did that very, very well, intentionally, to kind of build a little bit of hope. From the standpoint of you, the audience, watching it. And I'll just pause there, and I just think that's the seed there of like, oh well, this is the authorities, this is the guys, and there's more than one here, and they're onto this, like they seem like they're, now obviously there also is a little bit of like, this case isn't, the detective who got on top of it isn't necessarily He's seen better days. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, kind of a disgrace. Yeah, there's two detectives. There's the got up. Yeah, the old grizzled one that's disgraced. That his better days have long passed. And then you have the rookie. That admires the guy, the grizzled one. So yeah, most movies you just get the one detective in a movie like this, but you get two detectives. Two for the price of one, and both are very unique and interesting. I have a story for each of them because there's like extensive extras on this thing. Awesome. Well, I'll talk a little bit more about it later. But yeah, there's an interview with the younger rookie, and he's very clean cut in the movie, but he I think it's Detective Kim, but yeah, he had long hair before he started filming the movie, and he was saying to the director, all these American movies, the detectives that have long hair, like Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon, he has long hair, and Jang, the director, he goes, yeah, this is South Korea. Cut your hair. So I thought that was kind of a fun story. And then the older detective, Detective Chu, he has a lot of stunt scenes in the movie, and there's a point in the little features where they all kind of think the stuntmen in this movie, and there's a lot of stunts, and South Korea, it's not Hollywood. They don't have extensive stunt team, so a lot of it, they're kind of flying by the seat of their pants, and there's a scene where the detective Chu's tumbling down the hill, and it's pretty rough seeing that the guy filming that over and over. But yeah, the detective Chu, he's thanking the guy for being a stunt guy. But I love the interviews on this disc because they're so real, and they're not these fake Hollywood ones. He goes, I don't really know what that stunt guy looks like. I know I passed him in the hotel we were staying at during lunch, during breakfast, but I don't know him. But I think you, and if we meet in the future, I'll have a drink with you. So it's very, very kind of funny little story, but very real and very human. And I love because they talk to a lot of the production people on this movie, and they're very much apologetic for things that they feel they did wrong. And there's one where they had to make a kind of a dummy of Detective Chu as well, and the guy was going on and on about how he didn't really get the eyes right for the dummy, and he was really kind of beating himself up over that. And I don't think you would see that in like a making of Hollywood movie, because they want to show just the good aspects of it. But yeah, I love that aspect of this, because you get this real sort of kind of look at it. And when the DVD features, a lot of them were made, they knew the movie was a flop, and they were doing the features for the DVD, so they were talking about it being a flop, and talking about the things that didn't work for the movie. So it's really fascinating thing with that. But yeah, I'm kind of straying from the movie, but yeah, there's so many so many things about this movie that I absolutely love, and I want to talk about all of them.
There's so many things. Like, I'll just give you an example. Okay, you have like where the CEO dude gets the Chubble guy. The Chubble in South Korea are these like ginormous family conglomerates that just got even bigger and more powerful over the time that I had mentioned earlier, like where they had to take money, they had to do this, da. So a lot of these people, like, they got fucked over by these big corporations, like really fucked over, like just like our main protagonist did. But you have these labels, right? So what I mean by that is you have the CEO dude, and he is supposed to be the victim, but he's the villain, and or could be the villain, I should say. And then vice versa, the guy who's doing it, he's the victim, but he's it's a lot of metadata to take in. Like I said, like whenever it gives you two or three things right there, and they're all there, and they're all true. But some are more true than others, which you get to see that. But I could easily see that if you were a cinema goer, you would probably want to focus more on the just the. I think that's probably the best lens to see this. This is a good movie because it does world building as well, which I hardly ever even touched on. And this movie, I gotta say, I think. I don't really get. I didn't really get into the criticism of like how well it was structured or whatever. Like, I mean, it has some kind of things that that are interesting, I guess, but they worked well. I mean, I didn't find fault with anything that it was showing me, and whatnot. I think it did. It structures and it world builds in such a clear way too. I love that. I don't understand how a movie, a foreign film, a South Korean film, that was a bomb kind of sort of. That later on kind of got legs of its own, like these things do that we cover. How can it do such a better job of telling a story very clearly, world building to where I can understand very clearly, like whether it's Suni's her perspective on things, or the concept of love, or the concept of like if you with that particular kind of scene, I couldn't help but think of like, if you love something, let it go, and if it loves you, it'll come back. Like that. I'll just kind of pause there. But anyway, I agree with you. There's just so many different things to go into or to layer over top of, and I think that's why that's that way, because like I had said, and you had said, these guys, they came up in a certain kind of way, and they knew how to tell a story, and there's the stories that they had to tell are deep and interesting. So it's no surprise to me that we are, whether it's anime, manga, or these kind of films like that we go back through, or Parasite later on. I mean, it's just amazing. I was really happy with this film, and at first when you had mentioned it and you hear the title, you think kind of like Killer Clowns from Outer Space or something. You think it's just something
Right.
out there, or off the wall, or it's just something that might be related, but which, by the way, is these two very vastly different, fucking properties here. But you hear that, and then you kind of think, oh, this is just like I don't know, it's just going to be something out there. But and it
Right.
is, but it's got, gee whiz, it's got a lot of weight.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where it has that kind of sheen of a B movie, a Roger Corman say movie, where on the surface level you can see it as maybe sort of like a mix up of Killer Clowns and maybe Evil Dead. You've got these kind of weird aspects of it being kind of kitschy but also kind of extreme as well. And on the surface level, if that's all the movie was, it'd be a fun movie. It'd be a great movie to watch. But he's the director, writer. He has these socio-political feelings and ideas and things that he wants to get across that has this undercurrent and overcurrent that embodies the movie with this heart and this massive amount of tragedy that you could keep it at the surface level if you want, watching the movie, but there's so much more emotional depth that you can go into with this movie that surprised me. And when I first was looking at it to see whether or not I was kind of interested in watching this movie. When you see the title "Save the Green Planet," is like, okay, back in the 2000s, you had Captain Planet. Is this sort of like this, kind of a happy, feel good, save the Green Planet, kind of environmental thing. But no, it's not. It's just so much right, and that's one of the charms of the movie, but also kind of probably why it became a flop, because you don't really get down to the meat of it, and you're not supposed to. It's designed that way. You're supposed to just see the surface, and then you're blindsided by all the levels that it goes to, and almost like the setting of it. I love the setting. There's two commentaries. There's an old one from the DVD with the director and the star of the movie right after the movie came out, and their commentary is just wonderful because there's so much still involved with the movie, and they're laughing and they're enjoying watching the movie and giving a little stories along the way. Just wonderful little commentary, and then you also have. A commentary with the guy that put together the release of the 4K, and then the special effects guy that has loved the movie forever, and they give you a lot of insight into the movie. The guy that put together the package for the 4K, he lives in Korea and very much involved in Korean cinema, so he had a lot of insight. But where it takes place is, he's built this kind of pieced together this house above this bathhouse mining bathhouse. So you got all these levels as well to the whole structure. That's just this wonderful thing of you got first surface level, which is kind of quirky and kind of interesting, and then you get kind of lower and lower and darker and get into the emotional depths of the situation as you go deeper into the structure. Just wonderful. And also, they said that in South Korea, this would be reminiscent of these kind of black ops kind of governmental facilities. They would make them out in these mountains in these remote places. So a South Korean citizen would be emotionally invoked by this. It's like they would notice this situation and be it would remark them as far as what's going on here. But us being foreigners wouldn't have that aspect of it. But it does emote this emotional pull. You're instantly going, what's going on here with the house and the beekeeping and all of that aspect. And I will note, we didn't talk about the dog, his dog Earth.
Oh yeah, God, Fido,
which is an interesting character in and of itself.
What? Well, I was gonna say too. It's so funny because like all along the line, as a situation is happening with our protagonist and the detective comes around, there's this natural tension building hideout, like, oh no, focus on that one thing over there that could betray the whole thing. And then in the end, it's the fucking dog that it's just like amazing. And I was also going to say too, just a little bit of a history on like why this what happened with the in South Korea. South Korea was under military rule until 1987. So if you were literally ruled by the man for that long, and then you're coming out of this, you're kind of like the first generations of kind of coming out. But like our protagonist, he's got it very, very bad. Like that he just. I was going to say too, it's incredibly brutal and cruel. But just like I said, but at the same time, it hands you that. It also hands you something else too, which I'm not saying that they don't cancel each other out. It's not that kind of film at all. It is. It's an incredibly complicated, but a snapshot of like what you're given at that time, like when the scene is progressing on, and it's just like. If you see it, it's just. I don't want to give away anything because there is a lot to. There is wonderful, wonderful doors that you open up and are surprised by. Yeah. In ways that you can only have if somebody, if you just watch it. I'm gonna just go there. I literally just described what a spoiler was, so I don't want to be that person to do that because this film is it's really good. It is far, far, far better than what it has a right to be, probably.
And I think
it's history, but
I think one of the things that makes it what it is because the director, they're all prepped to go, and I think the star of it had to go off to make a movie with Park. So they had a year. he had a year to kind of play with the movie and kind of develop it. So I think all of that development didn't go to waste. That really kind of really structures the movie and gives it a lot of the architecture that it's on, that holds the movie solid. Like, he thought down to the dog. Like, a lot of the trained dogs in South Korea were like German shepherds and that type of breed. And he didn't think, right? Yeah, you wouldn't have the protagonist wouldn't have a German Shepherd. So they found this South Korean breed in Busan, this stray dog that they took and is now in the movie. Just made sense. Of course they had to kind of struggle with the dog because it was scared. It had all these people here, making a movie. He didn't know what was going on, so they had to especially work with him. But it kind of made sense for this movie because, you wouldn't have this highly trained dog, German Shepherd showing up. It made sense to have like a South Korean breed in there. So it just has all these layers. Also, I wanted to say that while watching the movie, I got the sense, I was also thinking about, superheroes, since he was wanting to make a superhero movie. This almost kind of had levels of The Punisher, the Punisher, the Marvel superhero that's highly delusional, is on a mission that he's focused on, inspired by love and tragedy. There's interesting parallels there. And then another little tidbit, and this is I got from one of the guys that did the commentary on there. I thought this was beautiful and really made sense. You've got Byung fighting against this alien race, possibly, and there's a scene where Byung attacks one of the detectives with bees, and the detective miraculously fires his gun and shoots down a couple of the bees. But you have this swarm of bees attacking you. And he said it's sort of like representative of the aliens. You may be able to take down a couple of the aliens, but they're there. There are going to be a huge amount of them. And then there's that interesting parallel between humanity and bees and aliens and humans. But there's all sorts of different parallels and interesting things and connective tissue in this movie that you can make that all make sense, but maybe is not the point of the movie. This movie is just this smorgasbord of various emotions and ideas, and one of the guys in the commentary was talking about how political the director is and how this is a political movie, and I'm sure you could put all of that in there, but I'm not really political, so that's not the aspect I focus on. There's so many other things in this movie that you could attack and put in this movie and enjoy, whatever. This is one of those movies where whatever baggage you go in with, it's going to fulfill you in some way.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I was going to say too. I think that I was trying to think of like how what's the best way to kind of to give a definition to this movie as far as like a genre or this or that, and like I had mentioned that that the Over the Rainbow plays 3 times in the film. The first time it plays at the very opening. It's very punk. It's a punk cover, and I think that the because it's the punk cover and you're seeing it in the opening kidnapping scene, you're getting the false genre like expectation. It's it artificially putting you here, and then the trapdoor's there. It's very obvious. And then but I don't think that but if you're told that it's a comedy coming into it, you're not going to make that connection at all. That's gone out the window because that's going to overrule everything else beyond that. And then you're going to go through and be like, what the am I watching? But then you also had the second time it was played was the Broadway cover, and that's again, like I said, that's where you're holding that innocence and that cruelty right there in each hand. It is. And then the final time it plays, which is you can watch the movie and figure it out. It's also the original version. So as it gets closer and closer, like I just noted, that the fact that they played three different versions of it is also another commentary and a layer on top of that that we got for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a very interesting point because it's sort of they could have took different songs and placed them in there, but it wouldn't be as effective.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's telling you that the song is the core of it, but you could approach it in so many different ways and get so many different emotional levels out of that one song, and for each of them to be very much valid and have its own place in the world. And that sort of reflects the movie and the motions of this movie. There's so many things that are you're kind of juggling in this, and there's the love and the hate of humanity, and there's so many aspects of humanity that and you're seeing them all within this movie. And then you have all these different genres as well playing against this movie. It's almost like there's all these different styles of music you can play. There's all these different genres that you could do with the movie, but you could still do it all within one movie as well.
Right.
It's just
And I can totally understand why like the political could come in, and I kind of mentioned a little bit before, like that the 386 generation noticed that those guys were born in the 60s or not far off from it, and they also came up when they hit their prime in their 30s. That's when you also had computers, so you had this unique kind of thing of creativity and the future. Anybody who understands that Korea and South Korea, particularly in the 1980s, toward the end of the 80s, going into the 90s, where they just had the infancy of their technology. Anyway, the point is that these guys grew up with their tools and the technology, and that they were able to make these things. So anyway, a lot of those guys, though, like they'll kind of pit the institution, or as a character in and of itself, and like that is true in here in this one too. But it's a character, but it's not a main character. It's important, but it's not. The way that the elements are put in here, and like whether it's his dad or him losing his job because whatever or whatever his. Whatever, it's just interesting. Like it just it has a lot to say. And I'll just like another example, like when Suni and Byung-gu Byung-gu, he and her they had this conversation, and there's a question asked, and the way that it's answered is it's answered, and just that exchange is very interesting. Anyway, it's just perfectly done, and also where they're at in this kind of remote mountain spot, they're kind of out in their, I guess would be their hicks, or their way out country, corn pone, whatever, way out in the sticks. But it's also beautiful too, because they show the mountains and the. They have a little bit of commentary on that, but anyway, it's just interesting how it can hold two things in the hand at the same time, And again, it's not about canceling each other out. Nope, you don't get that. That doesn't exist in this movie. That just doesn't, because you see something, you see a scene, you see this. It's just like that song, just like that. There's just that thing. It's simple, but it's not. I don't know. It's just a very good. Right. A very good film, and I kind of wish I had seen this before I had seen the other one, but but never mind that. That'll be its own show in its own time, because this is its own thing. Yeah, when I found out this was the original movie, I wanted to see it first, so that's why I hadn't seen that movie. And this movie had such an impact on me that I didn't want to immediately watch Bugonia, because
I wanted to let this movie live and breathe with me for a while before I go on to it, because I wanted to give Bugonia its own space as well. You know, I didn't want to mash up, because you know this movie was one of those one and done movies where you instantly forget about it after you watch it. But this movie's had such an emotional impact on me that I want it to live with me for a while before I immediately go on to something else. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's the impact on this. And even the aspect of there's these reoccurring themes in this movie, and they all have an emotional weight to it. Like you know that his father, you know, we learn from flashbacks that his father dies, and one of the things that you know, one of the visuals that impact him that and then impacts us as well is that, you know, there's a mine accident and his father's arm gets blown off. And there's this reoccurring theme of arms and hands in this movie. They just kind of keep popping up, whether it be a mannequin's hands or you know, these hands reaching out through the mirror to get him. There's all these hands things, and then, you know, when his father dies, there's these little paper cocktail umbrellas, and that keeps coming up as well. And you know, and the director said, I don't know why these hands keep coming up. I don't know why I'm obsessed with this, but you know, it just kind of naturally happened within this movie. So there's a subconscious level to this movie too, where there's like this normal flow to it, and I would not call it a Lynchian movie, but I think it ties in to that kind of dream logic that Lynch has.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, the fact that this does have, like, whereas like a Lynch film would have like maybe two or three, this one has like 20. Yeah. In any one of those parts, like I'm not going to say what happens, but I'm just going to say that you have the Byung-gu, and you have his mom, and you know you want to talk about, like, I mean, just like this is it's a stair step up to the climax, I'll put it that way. But
Yeah.
each step is like a whole other like level of like just agony. I mean, just
Yeah.
and these people have been just fucking traumatized. I mean, like, whether it's, you know, him or you know, this or that. Although it is interesting. It doesn't take too long because it does focus on a little bit. But you know, there is a point like where it does. I also love how this film doesn't drop any points. And like, for example, like, there's a cost to this knowledge. I'll just put it that way. The cost to have this knowledge is not cheap. It's not cheap, and there's a price that has to be paid to get to there. I'll just put it that way. But when you have that there, you know, I mean, that's just the first fucking, you know, that's one of the steps just to get here, you know. So it just masterfully plays with that. And then also like the when you can tell this film, you tend to be a little bit more forgiving, because like you kind of tend to take, you know, the way that the film does kind of play with you a little bit, kind of shows him as bumbling, I guess, in a way,
Right. Yeah.
and to comedic effect or whatever. It's kind of like it's striking you as like, this is kind of like he's either not good at it or this is his first couple times. And one of those two things is true. I'll leave that up to the audience to figure out. But regardless, you know, it sets the table, and then you get that later on. It's just so interesting how it goes, and it's also really sad. But you know, it's entertaining every step of the way. And there is a little bit of horror, I would argue, in this. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Social horror.
Yeah,
that we didn't even talk about yet. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and then, one of the things that in the interviews Jang said is that, you know, he said the more I'm watching the movie, the sadder it's gotten for me. You know, the sadder aspects of this movie. And one of the things about this movie is, you know, the comedy. A lot of times when you implement comedy in a movie, it's especially with such dark themes as this and such heavy stuff, it's to lighten the blow. It's to kind of make the movie not as hard to swallow, to kind of soften the edges to the point where it's easy to digest and you can have a fun time with the movie and enjoy it. But this movie doesn't do that. The funny aspects and the funny parts of the movie has its place, but it's not softening the harder aspects, the emotional punches, because it goes there when it punches you in the stomach with the dark stuff. It's there. It's not softened. It's a very visceral, and in fact, in certain scenes, they use real live footage of misery and torture and stuff, and it wallops you. But yeah, it's sort of like this ebb and flow of emotions that really takes you through it. And when things are dark and gory and bloody, they're there because that's what it's focusing on. But oddly enough, it all kind of works together. There's not this this swinging of emotions. It's almost like this whole flow of it is masterfully orchestrated to the point where you're going from one thing to the other without any whiplash, which is kind of crazy. But that's what this movie does to you. It takes you on a journey that makes total sense. Although you're going up here, you're going down here, you're going this way, going that way, and again, almost sometimes in the same scene.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, the characters here too. You're when I say it gives them labels earlier before too. One of those is false, absolutely. And the other thing too is that CEO, like, I won't spoil anything, but there's a part toward the end where it's a kind of a showdown kind of thing. And I was, again, this works better the more if you see this film the first time, you might not, but second or third, like Tom says, it gets even better because you get to see other things there. But I got to thinking about that, like, okay, so he has been kidnapped this whole time, and that he is a vindictive MFer for sure. The CEO dude, like he absolutely would be. He is that kind of guy. So you can tell, like. I don't know if you saw it or not, or if it realized or had thought about this, but like when there is an interaction that he does that he programs into the computer, presumably, I think, and then he hits the key or whatever, and then XYZ happens after, and it's an interaction between him and Suni, and I'll just kind of leave it there and kind of think, like, I realized, like, that motherfucker had been planning that. He had been planning that from the time that he had been kidnapped till when he could, turn the tables, turn it around on the other, on our hero, his antagonist. But anyway, I just thought that was anyway. And then it's true all along the line for this movie. Like, it's just
two aspects of that. Yeah, from that scene, on my second viewing of it, there's a part of that scene where Byung's reaching out for this hanging mouse, computer mouse, and usually that would be kind of funny. This very emotional, action-packed scene. Things are hinging on a hanging mouse. That should be funny, but it's such an emotional punch, and you're reaching for it with him. The fact that you could do that with just a hanging mouse off of a table, it's amazing. I love that.
And I'll say this too: he knows how to. But cinematographer and director, they know how to use scale perfectly. Like just the positioning and like how far they are away from things. They have pretty damn good dimensions, I guess, that they show between the like other times, like where that's been done in other Hollywood scenes, it's like so crappy or cheap, or it's just or it's like a Michael Bay film, and it's just like you don't know what fucking part of the battle or the scene you're in. It's just like and it's supposed to be like something like it's inches, but it also goes down to also it feeds right back into the storyline, because Jesus Christ, this guy has gone so far. He's so far. And it's almost like that curse of you can go as far and hard and fast as you want, but ultimately at the end of the day, the distance will be cut in half. So the closer you get to the thing, you're still gonna be have that gap. That there's always gonna be a gap there, like where, and it's
Yeah,
god damn, it's brutal. Yeah, it's also
yeah,
brutal too. The what I mentioned too between that interaction and anyway, it is a truly an epic third act or fourth act or whatever it is,
yeah,
like
yeah,
kind of stand up
yeah.
scene at the very end.
Hmm. Yeah,
And that's not even the end of it.
yeah,
I'll just put it that way.
there's a surprise ending, but yeah, that's all we'll say about that.
Yeah.
But really, really fantastic. Again, King is the character that, yeah, you think at the beginning he's kind of one dimensional, sort of a loudmouth CEO that doesn't care for his underlings. That you immediately see that with his interaction with the his chauffeur, not his normal chauffeur, but a stand-in chauffeur
Oh
that
right. Yeah. Yeah.
shortchanges tipping. You immediately kind of dislike the guy, but when he gets kidnapped, you go, oh, well, he's a kidnap victim. You gotta give him some some
Right.
leeway. But yeah, the more you try to side with him, the more. Uh, more you start to swing towards Byung. But there is a scene where he does kind of get loose in the lair. And he starts reading the journals, and he kind of has this emotional breakdown where he's crying, where you don't know, is he crying for Byung? What is the emotions there?
Mm.
Why is he so emotionally taken with that? And I won't go too
Mm.
detailed because there's kind of war within myself as to what he's actually kind of emotionally going through there that I
Mm.
haven't quite settled on. But yeah, there's so much there.
You,
There's so many aspects of this movie that we didn't even touch on.
oh God.
That
Well, well, just like him, like you, like I kind of gave a little bit of an echo of my kind of like my thoughts toward that one scene at the very end of the film. But if you backtrack and you go up to like a thing, I'll just kind of like leave this thought as we kind of we're closing up shop here. Like
uh,
the fact of like if you're a normal person who's kidnapped, who is a victim, and they didn't ask, they're told or they're forced outside, they're beaten, they're mistreated, they're for all intents and fear there's the fear of God is put into them for that they won't might not see the end of, see the next day or whatever. But like
mhm,
in that kind of a situation, you would think that if you had kids or a wife or loved ones, those would be the very first things that you would, kind of bargain with you would say,
mhm,
that is not true for this guy.
yeah,
That is not true for this guy whatsoever. I'll leave it there. But I will also say too, like well, we'll have to have a conversation offline maybe about this scene that you're talking about. But you see him, and it kind of does puzzle you. But it also kind of also shows that like um, that there's a malevolence there too,
mhm,
to something there.
mhm,
And is the malevolence that I'm talking about, is that our protagonist and getting the information he did, or is the malice the CEO looking at the, like reviewing, like kind of seeing what he's
mhm,
really up to or what this is about,
yeah,
anyway, it's great, it's awesome. And I was going to say too, um this is, I think you'd agree with me, Tom, but like, the Save the Green Planet, that bomb, it
mhm,
somehow it predicted Parasite, Get Out, and some A24 horror,
mhm,
which hopefully we'll recap, and then maybe we can have an
mhm,
extended
yeah,
conversation if we ever get to Bugonia. But like Tom said, we want to take things and let them stand on their own because they are good. And this original is just truly, just like the other one was short and how compact it was. This one is everything is but as dense as that one is, but for a 2 hour film that it keeps you interested, and it
yeah,
should,
yeah.
and you don't know
We
why, but you can't help but keep watching.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a movie that's going to stay with me quite a bit, and like I said, it yeah, it has so many warring emotions within itself, and I have so many warring emotions in myself about the movie, and how I wish I'd maybe seen it 20 years ago, but also I love that this is a fresh new movie that from so many years ago that I get to experience for the first time. You know, there's that kind of almost a meme now where it's like, oh, I wish I could have experienced Star Wars for the first time again. Whereas this movie I got to experience for the first time, and it's amazing. Also, I will plug this again. Excellent. Arrow knocks it out of the park almost every single time on their physical media. You got this nice box set, very solid box here with the wonderful commissioned art, new art, which we used as our thumbnail. Beautiful. You get the movie. You get 2 discs. You get the 4K. But also you get a Blu-ray with all the extras. The extras on this is hours and hours worth of extras. I went through it all, which took me a long time to get through. We've got like a binge worthy in the tank, so
we do.
Normally I would have had to cut it off early for the binge worthy, but I had so much extra time that I got to enjoy all of it. In the archival stuff from the DVD, it was wonderful because it's almost like a time capsule. Since part of the movie, one of the characters is in the circus, they actually went to the last South Korean working circus to film there, and one of the extras on this is kind of going through the different acts that the circus goes through. So it's almost like a little time capsule of what a circus was like at that time, which was wonderful to watch. I was just kind of captivated, and there's just so many extras and different things where they're talking about the director. A lot of times when I do these things and I kind of bring up the extras in the disc, I kind of spoil all the cool things that they talk about. But this has so much stuff on there. I didn't even touch, get to the iceberg of it. You also get a little. I don't know if the special edition is still available, but you do get a little book if you get that, and a poster of the art. So I'm thinking about getting a frame and putting this up.
Yeah. Beautiful.
But yeah, and also. One of the things I wish I got back in the day is they had a special edition of the DVD that came with a little green rag, which if you've seen the movie, you know the importance of the little green rag and a little bottle of menthol rub. It came with that and with the soundtrack, which would have been wonderful to have. Also, there's a little interview with the composer in this from the archival thing, and he said in the special thanks notes of the CD, he thanks the Andromedas. So if you know, you know.
That's awesome.
The Andromedans. But yeah, so I think that's everything. Again, we could probably spend another couple hours talking about this movie. I love it. We don't rate these things, but it's going to be a 9 or a 10 for me.
No, I agree. I'm right there with you. I would save, and that I would say probably start a little bit behind that, like probably 8.8, and then it would slowly every time I rewatched it would get close. it would get earn its extra couple points into heaven. But I can't. This is like one of those really cool films that comes along just like as impactful as even more impactful than like say like Weapons or Tenebrae for me, or Possession, this is it's really only a South Korean film could have done this.
It's uniquely South Korean, and that's not a dig at it. That's a wonderful thing about this movie. If you're tired of Hollywood movies, if you're tired of the endless superhero movies, you're tired of Disney's slop, you're tired of all this stuff, go outside the borders. Stop watching Hollywood movies. Go watch a South Korean movie. Watch a French movie. Kind of expand your horizons, because the cool thing about these various cultures is they have a different cultural basis. They're looking at the world in a different view, and it's always wonderful to see things through different eyes, and you get appreciation of how they see things. And you see the differences, but you also see the similarities, and there's like this connective tissue that's just wonderful. In South Korean movies are very unique in of themselves, and this movie kind of embodies all that, but then also expands without that. It's one of those movies that you don't really understand until you see it. So if you're an adventurous soul, you'll definitely love this movie.
It is an experience for sure, but we can't implore you guys enough to go out there and see it. But hopefully, if you've been with us this long and you like what we have to say, we would love to hear back what you say as well. Like, what you guys think of this when you first saw it, or the other film that the most recently came out for this. But this, you can always find this here at firstlastnerdum.com, as well as at firstlastnerdum on YouTube. I've been Mike.
Oh, and I'm Tom.
Oh, yeah.
Also, there's 2 short films on this by the guy. So, and then they also talk about the John Lennon one as well. So there's one called Hair, which is about another delusional, crazy guy, starring the guy that starred in this movie. 15-minute short. Definitely fun to watch. But yeah, definitely check that out. So,